instant. For Chris at Country Roots, a devastating vehicle accident left him in a wheelchair facing one of life's toughest challenges. But he didn't let that stop him. With determination, he turned his passion for growing into a thriving garden center. And then the unexpected happened. The pandemic forced him to close the doors on his dream. But every setback is an opportunity for a comeback. Returning to his family's farm, he dug deep, growing not only just crops, but an entire soil and amendment business. Let's dive into the rest of the Country Roots story. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Organically Blunt. Sorry about being a couple minutes late. The weather's not so great out there, but I'm Jay Blaze, your host. And if you don't already know that, you should. And tonight I have the pleasure and the opportunity to speak with Chris from Country Roots. Welcome to Organically Blunt, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jay.
Definitely. So I want to dive right into things, and my first question for you right off the bat is, can you share a little bit about your background and how cannabis first became a part of your life?
Yeah, good question. I guess, when cannabis first became a part of my life, it's been a part of my life for a long time, since a young man, really, since a young teenager, quite frankly. Which a lot of people do, start consuming at, earlier ages for various reasons. I don't condone that, and I wouldn't, wish people to start at early ages by any means. But, some people, grow up in poverty type environments around different types of situations, and, was in my life, we'll just say that, and had a lot of fun with it though. And, so it became part of my life as a early adult, and been consuming for a long time. I was thinking about it recently. I've actually been consuming for almost 30 years now. So it's been a while.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a lot longer than I have, now that I think about it. I started when I was 18, but it was not the greatest experience the first time. So it's kind of cool that I hear that, you kind of growed with the plant, and how
Yeah,
would
early on, I was a skateboarder and a snowboarder, and so
Okay.
I was out, running around the streets and things like that, and hanging out with older kids, and had some older influences in my life, and but we were all pretty straight about it in the sense that I was very serious about my skateboarding and snowboarding even back then, and wanted to take what I was doing very seriously. But at the end of the day, or at the right time of the day, we might partake and cut loose a little bit, have some fun.
Definitely. So, a little bit about your background when it comes to education. A lot of people don't know what type of background you come from, but also, can you share with us a little bit of what the college life was like with using the cannabis plant while doing studies? I mean, did it seem to improve? Did it seem to kind of slow things down for you? How did you use it when you were learning your education into your career?
Yeah, so in high school and things, I didn't really take the school a whole lot seriously. I felt like I was just trudging through the wheels to get done with it. And then by the time I started college, I realized that this was, absolutely for my life and my career goals, and my overall goals into my adulthood. And so I really started taking school seriously in college, and I was consuming through college. But I also, would give myself the break to go to school and to take the school very seriously and take my studying very seriously. But I also learned that, just being, someone who likes to medicate with cannabis, I noticed that my thought process, just works well when I think about things, with a clear mind for a while. And then, at the end of the day, or, some part in the day, you can medicate and meditate on some things. And sometimes your ideas and things twist. And even through like complex mathematics, I'm a geology major. And so I had to go through calculus and physics and, some things that I never really considered myself to be able to even take or pass. and some of the stuff was really, really challenging for me. And some of it, quite frankly, I had to study it, medicated, and it would help me to relax and to think about things. And, I could put in the more time and the focused energy, and just be, a little bit more tuned to learning about it. And so, frankly, I had to do a little bit of both. I would, work at things with a clear mind, and then work at things with a medicated mind. And even writing my thesis and things like that in graduate school, at the end of the day, I would medicate and look at the things I was doing earlier in the day, like, oh, that was a waste of my time. I should have totally thought about it like this. And I would restructure a lot of my work. And I noticed that it was, for the better. And I kind of highlight that because that's when I realized that, um, you know, cannabis is an important medicine, and it does help certain creative type people get through things and to do things. We can all be, we can overconsume and we can just party and, and do things that way. But there's other ways to consume as well, where you're, in your relaxed home environment, or, a good study environment, and you can sit down with a good book or some good material and relax your brain and, think about things. So
Absolutely.
started to
Yeah,
realize that in college.
it does that for me. And I never knew you were into skateboarding. That is something new that I just learned. Funny story about that, kind of off the trail a little bit, but just yesterday I was talking to a guy, and he went through some tragedy in his life, and he ended up being the his family was awarded the Extreme Makeover Home Edition. I don't know if you're familiar with the show or not, but he was one of those kids that his family got a whole brand new house. Well, this was in 92. They built a skate park in his backyard, and Tony Hawk designed the whole thing, and he did a surprise thing. And the guy was showing me he had a skateboard that was signed by Tony Hawk from 1992. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah,
Very cool.
definitely. Yeah. So, a lot of people don't know, and I know you don't really want to touch on it a whole bunch, but you were in an accident and became, wheelchair bound for a while. And how did you overcome that challenge? I mean, it had to have been very difficult, painful, and to go from that to where you're at today to doing the work yourself and having your hands literally in the roots. How has that worked for you?
Yeah, I guess I'll back up because, like I said, I haven't really talked about it a whole lot. But yeah, I was in an unfortunate accident. I was doing some repair work at my house, and I ordered a countertop, and I went to put the countertop in the night before, and it was completely cracked already. So the morning, I was like, all right, I'll take it back in the morning, and get a new one and come back and be able to work on it. And so it was 7 o'clock in the morning. I was driving to Lowe's to return this counter, and an impaired driver he was in his lane, and then he just swerved right into me, and we're both on 55-mile-an-hour roads.
Wow.
And I just seen him come right into me, and just kind of had to, there was nothing I could do but embrace, accept the fact that I was going to get hit. um and so, yeah, I was hit, struck on point, broke both my feet, and got a burst fractures in my spine. And I was conscious through the whole thing too, which is kind of a wild part
Wow.
about it. My vehicle, all I remember seeing was just fire all in front of my face, and my seatbelt was locked and I couldn't move. And a Vietnam veteran was right behind me, and this guy was actually smaller than me too. And but he knew that he had to do something. He said he just heard the explosion. It was like a big bomb went off. And luckily this guy was brave enough to jump out of his vehicle and pull me out of a burning truck while I'm screaming
Wow.
that my back is broken, I'm in pain. Not to be overly dramatic, but it was a very dramatic situation. And I say that because not everybody's brave enough to help somebody in a situation like that. So
Right.
I really appreciated that guy. That to this day I think about him, and his bravery for helping me out in a very rough situation. But yeah, I went right to the doctor, and they had to do quick surgery on me right away, and fuse my feet, and I got a spinal fusion in my whole abdomen. And so with two broken feet and a broken back, I wasn't walking at all for
No, right.
6 months. I had to, get used to that. And then I started going to the YMCA and dipping myself into the pool and kind of scooting around the pool, and slowly started getting my legs back, from that 6 months to a year mark. And then, start slowly weight bearing and taking my time with it. But you could imagine it is extremely painful, excruciating pain. And, going through all the doctor stuff, we tried all sorts of things because I got extreme nerve damage and things like that. And so that causes a whole bunch of complications as well. And so, the doctors are quick to just be like, hey, we'll prescribe you this, we'll prescribe you this, we'll prescribe you that, here's for this pain and this and that. And before you know it, I'm taking, some handfuls of pills, and, that first year, um, and slowly realizing that my body's having complications to all the medications that I'm on. My digestive system wasn't working right. My head wasn't working right. I didn't feel good. It was just constant issues. And so, I was already consuming cannabis to get through it all. But then I realized, like, the cannabis is what's really helping me the most. I had edibles around and friends bringing me treats and friends bringing me flour and things like that. And so I really started just reaching out to people and, like, keep this stuff coming. I need this. And it helped me to break free of a bunch of medications that were very counterproductive to me. I'm not against pharmaceuticals, and I'll still take some pharmaceuticals as needed, but it's a slippery slope when they start prescribing you whole bunches of pills and, various things for various things, and you start getting this cocktail of pills. It does affect our bodies in various ways. And so that's when I really started to learn. I knew cannabis was medicinal before that, but I didn't fully understand how it could help people in pain and things like that. Like, it doesn't cure my pain, but it helps me to deal with my pain. It helps me to relax. I can, even to this day, I deal with chronic pain, on a regular basis. You're familiar with Jay. I just, at
Yeah.
events and out and about, I got to sit down and smoke on a
Yep.
regular basis, or lay down and relax. I can't just walk around. I'm not, I got, physical disabilities. So, but cannabis
Definitely.
helps me to cope with it, and it's just giving myself the ability to relax, sit back and smoke, and calm my efforts. And it helps me get through even the hard soil days. I just lay down and get 15 to 30 minutes of rest, and I'm back for another hour or two of work. I just work in these increments.
Wow. Yeah. I got a friend here in the chat. I'm gonna read what he says here real quick. His name is Bingus, and this guy, in my opinion, is a genius. He was a guest on the show. He went to Colombia, South America, and had stem cell research and treatment done on him to restore his broken neck and back himself. He just thought he would let you know.
Yeah, I'm very curious about these type of treatments. I was actually in Colombia this year as well. And so maybe I get back there for some treatment sometime. Because yeah, I am open to some suggestions. I'm kind of dooming the next surgery, but I say, like, I don't want to just have a surgery. I want a recovery
Right.
plan, and I want something that's gonna, help me get through it and truly, feel better. And something like a stem cell might be, you know.
It's definitely piqued my interest. I'm kind of not. I wouldn't say even close to your story, but I'm dealing with going through the cocktail of prescriptions right now myself, and dealing with the doctors and trying to find one that's comfortable around cannabis. And I finally got one, and we're finally getting things moving forward. So hopefully I can start, to take care of some of these issues I have and get off the cocktail, because I'm not liking they keep adding more pharmaceuticals every time I go.
Yeah, that's all. I don't want to knock the pharmaceutical, because there is a good place for it, and there's a lot of great things that the medical industry can do for us. But we have to be true to ourselves too, and what is these things, how we're reacting to them, and is it more benefit than it is, counterproductive? And is there another way that you can heal yourself too? Is another question, to ask. And like you see, I
Right.
have a sauna as well. So for me, heat treatment is tremendous. With terrible back pain and nerve pain, the heat
Yep.
really helps soothe and ease that pain, and even a heat mat helps me.
I need to figure out something. I just seen a lady. She had like something that she plugs in, like it must be a mat, like you're talking about, because she was talking about laying on this thing, and I was like, I think I need something like that because I have no room for a sauna or a well, maybe a hot tub, but I don't think I could put a sauna out here. But
There's
you
these
know,
there's these infrared like crystal mats. They got like this infrared technology where it heats up and it massages and there's like crystals inside of it and stuff. I don't have one of those yet, but I've been referred to check them out and they look interesting.
absolutely. So I want to dive into the true meaning behind this show, and that is country roots. I want to hear the story about what inspired you to start it and where the name come from.
Yeah, good question on the name. I had Geo Farms was my original page, and I was already working in the organic natural farming community and paying attention to things. And I decided that I wanted to start a business and a brand and to get a website. And Geo Farms didn't make sense for me. I didn't want to make that my business brand because that was, just me, growing and my gardening brand. And so came up with a different name for Country Roots, and it just fit the vibe with, my life and, what I was working with. And so right away, just kind of attached to that name and went with it. But part of the motivation of doing it, a lot of the grow centers around Michigan here at the time, were highly hydroponic based. And if you were an organic grower, it was like you were an outcast in the garden centers, like they didn't
Yep.
take you seriously. They would laugh at you. They'd be like, oh, don't you know that's not the way, we could do it so much better. And you just hear all this stuff, and it's like, look, this is the way I want to grow. I understand you might be able to do this or that, that's not what I'm into. And and so I kind of got sick of that. And and also there wasn't a lot of places that had much materials, so I started a garden center that only catered to organics and home brewing supplies. And so we invested in some different organic nutrient lines and things, and some soil lines, and had a variety of products in there, and opened that store in 2017. Actually 2018. We got it in like the winter of 2017, and I think we opened in like January of 19 or 18. um but yeah, it was a lot of fun to have the office. It was some very prime years, some good years with some friends, and good years in the industry. And things were they took off right away for me for the most part. But like I said, I already had a name for myself, and I was already known in the community, and so that definitely helped me. And people kind of gravitated, and a lot of people wanted to come check out what we had to offer and support us in various ways from the beginning. So I got to say, thank you very much. I work hard for the community, and you guys are my people, and it means a lot to that people care. But
Absolutely.
so yeah, we set that up, and we operated that, even though despite I know organics is not the main way people grow in this industry. Most people are nutrient based, synthetic lines of growing. But it's been, to my surprise, even there's even more organic growers now than there was in 2017. For sure there is, but it's due to
Absolutely.
social media, and people promoting it, and people with legalization, learning about, what this medicinal plant can do for us, and that, growing it in its natural forms with, raw elements of the earth, produces, a truly medicinal plant. And, that's been growing, and that's a beautiful thing.
Definitely. So in the time that you did have your shop, what is one of the experiences you remember there, just like from helping someone or something you did or put on? What would you say one of your most favorite memories was?
Yeah, I like the little community days. We had a couple little parties in the back, early on. And people were in the beginning of legalization, people were like, are we allowed to consume around, various places? And, how does this all work? And so, the owner of the building that I was at was completely cool with what I was doing. I told him that we wanted to, have, a little gathering, and some people were going to be smoking, but everything would be kosher, and everything was kosher. It's just some friends hanging out and had, a couple of live musicians playing a little bit of music and hanging out. But in those early days, that was really fun because it was new and exciting, something that we'd never done before. Of course, we've smoked with our buddies in the basements and in their garages and
Right.
stuff like that. But to be able to hang out outside, at a business center and have a nice barbecue and, to sit back, smoke and have some laughs, is cool. We still love it to this day.
Absolutely. You know, that's where I met you at. I remember I was getting into the medical stuff and I needed a place to get my card. And a buddy lived up by your shop and he said, "Oh, I seen this shop in town. It's had a sign out front. You could get your medical card." And that's how me and Chris here met. He helped me get my medical card. So, and I continue to tell people, don't give up that right, because there's not a whole lot of us left, and we got to stick together, definitely. So, with that being said, I kind of want to dive into, things kind of took a turn, after the pandemic. I remember the memory and the conversation of you coming to me and saying, "Hey, I got to shut down my shop. Things are getting rough." You know, that took a big toll on you, as I feel, and even your mindset for a while there. But once you gained clarity and decided to bring things back to the farm, I think things have drastically improved for you. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience for you?
Yeah, I felt, the store was there was a lot of pride behind it and the things we were doing there, in terms of serving the community, helping with the medical cards, and people just having a spot to go to. We have, a lot of home gardeners, for a variety of people that, supported us, and so I felt the burden to try to keep that going as much as I could. I didn't want to let these people down, and I didn't really think about doing the business from home. I live in a remote area. It's pretty far away for people to drive. And I was like, nobody's going to support me out here. And so, I was a little worried about all that, but having the store helped me to get a name for myself. And luckily people were basically addicted to my products. They love my soil and amendments and things. And so it doesn't
Oh
matter
yeah.
where I'm at, people are reaching out to get them. And so, to my surprise, I haven't lost a whole lot of business. Some people are like, "Oh, where are you at? How do we get a hold of you?" But I'm still around and I'm still working things. So I've moved it up here. I built a barn and working on another big greenhouse in the garage. So we just got these different areas to run my operations right here. And frankly, we got more room than we ever did here now, so it's pretty nice and convenient. And like I say, for my handicap, it's great too because I can come in the house and relax when I need to, and just chug on through the days. So it's actually made my working life a lot more enjoyable because I can kind of work at my own pace and do things as needed. And if I got something in a pinch, I just got to roll out and do it. I don't have to drive, and deal with all that too. So it has caused some peace in my life, and I do feel a lot more comfortable than I did, the last couple of years owning the store. And I'm excited what I'm working on here, and frankly, this is good for me. I'm not trying to be the biggest soil company in the world by any means. I just want to operate the way I want to operate. I like to build the soils and do the things that I do first and foremost for my gardening practices. I wanted these materials to work with. And, I'm blessed to be able to help a bunch of other people. And we got hundreds of people around the state, hitting me up. And we've been just expanding things that way and just running a little in-state operation for the most part.
Definitely, and it's amazing what you do. I hope that, and I know you will, but I'm hoping that you'll bring back the classes and all the lectures and stuff like you did last year at the farm, because that was probably my most favorite experience all year last year. You know, it really brought the vibe that you felt like you were like a true farmer. I don't know how to explain it. Like there was so much education to absorb at the same time that it was just a great environment. And I'm hoping that you bring more of that as the future rolls out.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely want to do more educational stuff. I got a lot of I got a deep educational, background as well, and so I feel a tremendous desire to want to help teach people some of these principles and things about life that I understand. It's how we all grow too. I learn just as much, doing these things because people bring stuff to me and they bring different twists and turns and questions and situations, and it helps me evolve as well. So we
Yeah.
definitely be doing some more educational stuff.
Definitely. So, what are your future goals? You say you're building a greenhouse and you're doing some other things on the farm. I mean, what are your future goals for Country Roots? Are there any exciting projects that are going to be released this year?
Really just working. I just started a new hot cocoa soil. That's, a cocoa based soil that's like a living soil with cocoa, no peat in it. So I'm kind of expanding my products. I got like a few different soil blends that we do, understanding that growers, have different media type needs, and they got, there's different type of planting systems. And so I'm trying to evolve, with different grower demands and things like that. And, so I am very much listening to the community on that front. Um, but yeah, trying to be a rounded soil company in the sense of, we have some different things to offer people, all the different materials. Compost and worm castings are very important to me. So keeping these operations going, and this is all stuff we're doing. I'm just over the next year or two, just trying to smooth it all out a little bit more, and and yeah, just dialing my systems in, and hopefully get some new equipment in the future. But
Definitely. So, if I was a grower on a larger scale, outdoors, greenhouse, maybe even indoor, and I wanted to order your products, would you be able to get them to my place of business or a residence if it was on a bulk side of things? I'm not saying like a personal home growing. I'm saying like if it is larger than that.
yeah, absolutely. We've done some bigger orders for a few folks around. um and there's some trucking companies around, so I have a couple dealings with some different trucking companies that can haul out the 30-yard loaders. If we need to, if we got something that's up in the 30-yard or larger range, then we do that. I have a dump trailer that can hold up to 10 yards in it, and so I do a lot of 5 and 10 yard deliveries with my own trailer, to both home and commercial growers. You'd be surprised how many home growers, order, 5 yards or, 10 yards of soil. It's,
Absolutely.
if you're building your garden beds out, it can spread out, compost.
Definitely. So what can we see coming in the cannabis industry that you feel is going to play a role with Country Roots in the next couple of years? I mean, obviously you're into the soil business, but are you going to expand more on the education as well? I guess what I'm asking is what you what's your plans for the next 5 years?
Yeah, just keep, trying to teach people about regenerative soil. One of the biggest honors is, there's been a lot of great growers around the state that have, switched over to no-tilled style indoor gardening of bed, indoor and outdoor. A lot of people are putting those grassroot fabric pots beds together. And it's been a great honor to people that I look up to, growers that, do phenomenal work, and, they're switching over to the soil, and and having phenomenal results, and telling me, hey, my products are getting better and better, and they've been growing for 10, 15 years. um and so that's the biggest honor of all, and so just trying to keep expanding and keep teaching people about this soil product, and keep working the distribution. I see Bingus asked about distributing nationwide. We do mail all of our stuff. We got a website, countryroots.ltd.com, and we mail all of our products. But with soil, unfortunately, it's pretty expensive because it's heavy. But if somebody wants like a specific order, like, if you're going to fill a bed or something like that, or a big SIP sub irrigation planting system, and you're going to need, multiple bags of soil, you can order direct from the website. But I encourage you to email me and talk to me about your project. and we could try to quote you directly, because sometimes there's ways to bulk things or move things to try to come up with the most effective cost method for you. So reaching out direct through the email, or my phone number's on the website as well. Um, and so we do distribute, but mailing soil is just what it is, and it costs money to mail soil because it's such a heavy item. So it's tough, but I can help people get around. We do our own custom mineral pack and vermicompost packs, worm castings, and so I can even help people. You can find your own peat and cocoa and some materials that you're going to work with around you, and then I can help you with some minerals and some compost to make that a beautiful soil. So there's some strategic things that we can do, but certainly happy to work it out with people.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned off camera when we were talking about this episode a little bit, and I wanted to touch on this a little bit. I know it's kind of backtracking, but you mentioned that your mother-in-law had cancer and she had an experience with the plant. Would that have been your first experience with something like that and seeing the magic of the medicinal side of the plant treating cancer, or have you been exposed to something like that prior?
No, right around that time. So it was right after my aunt's accident. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with cancer, and she already only had one lung. She had a lung removed, years
Wow.
before that, and then so she was basically on a half a lung, with lung cancer, and some other things wrong inside and around there too. But she didn't feel like she could go through chemo because she didn't feel that she was strong enough or healthy enough to go through the chemo. And so some friends of ours that also had cancer and had great um, benefits from treating cancer with RSO. Rick Simpson oil is what they called it back then. He wrote a big articles about how to use cannabis oil to treat various ailments. And so my mother-in-law was in a very rough shape at the time, and the doctors gave her 3 to 6 months to live, and she went on a full cannabis RSO program, and she lived with us at the time of doing this, and treated herself through the cannabis, and was able to get another 7 years of great life. Unfortunately, she passed away this year. The cancer did ultimately come back to get her, but still, she was given 3 to 6 back then, and she got to see her grandkids for another 7 years, and live a pretty good life. And that was all thanks to treating with cannabis. And so that's when I really realized, like, wow, and just being in the community and seeing more of these stories. This wasn't the only one, and you hear some very miraculous miracles out there, that people were, given a dire sentence, and cannabis gave them some more years back on their life. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. I wish my grandfather would have tried it before he went through the first round of chemo. He went through 48 treatments and of radiation
wow.
and chemo. Yeah. And he had prostate cancer and it went benign, went away. And then 2019, it came back in the colon and it spread from the colon to the stomach. And we were actually looking at options and treatment. And then unfortunately, COVID came around and he got it and he went to the hospital, quarantined out. And I don't know if he came home on his own or if they sent him home, but then 2.5 days later, he passed away from COVID pneumonia. So he didn't get a chance to decide if he wanted to go with treatment or not. But he was just starting to experiment with cannabis. He was a goofy feller. I mean, he did some things you'd question, but I don't know. He was always involved in the hemp and the hash in his younger ages, but then as he got older and had kids and grandkids, he didn't do it. And then they started to come back around to it in his final years. And I think it would have done a lot of benefit if he would have did it a little sooner.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily save anybody, everybody either. Like I say,
Right.
I've seen a lot of cases, but I've seen it help a lot of people. And that chemo, nonetheless, is a terrible thing to go through. There's a lot of sicknesses, and a lot of, you can imagine how people feel going through that. And cannabis helps people ease through that situation. from what I can tell.
Absolutely.
Along with the added benefits of hopefully it does kill some cancer, bring some health and vitality back inside of your body and get that cannabinoid system rocking again. Um, but
Definitely.
I advise people to look into it for sure. If you got a loved one that may need it.
Right. So I got to pick your brain, and maybe you haven't decided, maybe you haven't thought about it yet, but I'm going to give you a little elbow nudge because I'm starting to plan for my outdoor season coming up. Not only am I going to be using country roots soil for the third year and re-amending my outdoor, but you know, I kind of got to know what I got to plant this year, when it comes to terpenes. You highlight at the sun grown competition this year. You did cherry this past year. What have you decided what it's going to be for this year yet?
Yeah, sure. I guess let's break the news. No, it seems pretty clear to me because we did the cherry last year. Cherry was good homage to, that's original strain characteristic of the plant. If you went back in the 80s, 90s, there wasn't a whole lot of characteristics. And cherry was one of the first, outcast flavors beyond skunk and things like that. But another one that really deserves good homage, of course, is the blueberry. And
Ooh,
so
okay.
I think that it just makes sense to make flavor of the year for 2025 the blueberry. And on top of that, I've been
Okay.
seeing a pretty big comeback of blueberry genetics too. Like a number of breeders have
Oh,
been working some
absolutely.
blueberry crosses. So yeah, I think we do the blueberry and we'll get a little feedback from the community on that. But I think people will love it just fine.
Oh, absolutely. A couple years ago I did blues and purples, and I did a series on them, and I grew blueberries and anything that had to do with like granddaddy purples and stuff like that. And that was a fun series I did. So I got a couple blueberries in my stash that I'm gonna pull out now because now I know I don't get mine as going as early as you guys though because I don't have the room, but here in March, I'm going to be getting some stuff ready for outdoors. So I know what I'm going to be popping now. So definitely
Yeah,
awesome.
and just to make it clear to people, any blueberry cross will do. It just has to be something with blueberry lineage inside of it. And so that qualifies as being capable to be entered blueberry.
Definitely. That's awesome. Yep. So, we got Red Setter out there. His message keeps coming up and on. Definitely, like you said, Red Setter, the crosses are loud. So I love what quality he brings to the table. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year.
For sure. Good work, Red Setter.
Yeah, so definitely, as we start to wind down a little bit in the episode here, I kind of want to reflect on your journey a little bit and hear a little bit how this plant has shaped you as a person beyond being a business owner. I mean, I know you've touched on it, but today, as you've matured and became a father and a business owner and an educator, how would you say it has affected your journey today?
Overall, it just kind of opens my mind up. Without cannabis, I get kind of narrow focused on things a little bit, if you will. Even on just like sympathy for people around me and things like that. I think it's opened me up and made me a kinder person and more understanding, even as an adult now, I recognize that, people have differences of all sorts of things, you know what I mean? And that's okay, you know what I mean? And cannabis helps me to deal with that, quite frankly, um, because it does help me enjoy my life, you know what I mean? And I know at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, I'm enjoying what I'm doing here. And so, who am I to like care about a bunch of what other people are doing? And cannabis does a good job of keeping me regulated like that.
Absolutely. So, a little veering off onto the education before we wrap things up here. If somebody was new to growing and they didn't know where to start and they reached out to you, where would you start them at as far as a piece of advice? Obviously, you're going to help them build the ideal soil, But what type of advice would you give a new grower?
I guess think things through, in the sense of like, how do you want to do it? You got to think about your grow room type of an environment. Do you have a room that you can dedicate to it, or do you want to do a tent, or you can go outside? The first things that you need to think about. And then from there, the soils that we provide can make it pretty easy for people as long as they're careful about what they're doing. But in the beginning, I think a lot of people don't really, obviously people don't really know what they're doing in the beginning. And so they're like, oh, I got to feed it and I need to do this and I need to do that. And what should I buy to enhance this? And you're just doing a bunch of stuff that you don't know what you're doing. So you want to try to avoid that in the beginning and try to keep things pretty simple. And if you don't get the desired outcome, maybe you can add something to your regimen the next time to help. But you know, don't overcomplicate it. Don't think that you gotta do. Experienced growers, I will say, do have hodgepodge programs. Every grower I know does things a little bit different. They got a couple little things they like to use, whatever. Even organic growers, there's hundreds of tools at our disposal. But it takes time to learn how to work those hundreds of tools, and you can grow some of the best herb ever without those tools. So being set up in a good living soil like what we produce, coming up with a pot size of like 5-7 gallons, you can grow a really nice plant pretty simply, just in the soil, water only. But I also work teas. Teas I think are pretty nice, and so I often tell people that, like, if you do want to do a couple of feedings, some light feedings right at flower transition, right the week or two before flower, and the first couple weeks of flower, like one feeding a week. Don't overcomplicate it, just a couple little things, and drive it through, and see how it tastes for you in the end.
Absolutely, definitely. You know, I gotta razz myself here a little bit, because I reached out to you for this project that we're going to be releasing on this auto AI tent series we're doing, and you were teasing me a little bit. You're like, you're changing it again, and I'm like, yeah, I'm one of them people that has the shiny object syndrome, but I think I finally got it dialed into where I want it, and I think I'm gonna leave it alone after this for a while. So I just figured I would let you know that, I got it, I think, where I want it, other than a few things here and there. But I do. I tend to jump on the tech side of things. And you're right. It's not always needed. It is quite simple what it takes to absolutely grow the plant. And people do overcomplicate it.
You can overcomplicate it. You could spend too much money buying stuff all the time, and then that discourages growers. They're like, "Man, I'm spending too much money. This ain't really worth it." And I don't want people to feel like that, because that's a lot. Pandemic of closing the shop down is one thing. A lot of small businesses were hurt, but overall, people just don't quite have as much free money, or they're not as able to just spend money. So we got to be more cautious with our money. We can't just be wasting money, especially as growers. Like, the whole industry changed. The price of the plant went way, way down, and everything else went up. You got to be smart about it, and try not to overdo it.
Definitely. So I want to dive into my last question for you. I've never had a chance to ask you this question. I know you've probably seen me ask everybody else this, but this is a question that makes organically blunt organically blunt. And the only rule to the question is you can't think about your answer. I want the first thought that pops in your head. So here we go. If you could smoke with anybody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
If I could smoke with anybody, I want to smoke with my grandfather. He passed away when I was 13 years old, and he was a very, very interesting guy, and big lover of ganja as well. I got photos of him standing in fields of cannabis, and
Wow.
and because I was young, I couldn't really talk to him about it, when I was 13.
Right.
um, but he lived a phenomenal life, and he had some stories that he didn't get to tell me. So rather than picking somebody famous, I would really love to chief with my grandfather. And I know for a fact he'd be very proud of me right now.
Absolutely. He should be. I mean, dude, that barn alone, it still blows my mind how fast you and that team put that barn up. Because I'm telling you right now, the guys you have that helped you with that, them are the true guys behind the magic. Because it was like Amish. That's the only way I can explain it. Like I looked, and the next thing you know, it was fully constructed, and I'm like, well, it's done. Not fully, but like I missed the whole process there, and I was hoping to catch it, but I got busy in my life too. But to see the pictures and how fast it went up, and now how fast you were putting and starting to put up that greenhouse, you're definitely you got things under control. I see it going long ways, and I know we've been talking back and forth a little bit. Maybe we can touch on it just a little bit here before we let you go. I know you want to highlight and bring more home delivery in 2025. So, for the people out there that might be interested in something like that, what areas do you think you want to highlight to begin with?
Well, yeah, we are doing do deliveries. So I've noticed like with the soil buyers and things, it's very convenient to just bring it over. A lot of people don't have, a proper vehicle to transport much soil. Even a yard of soil can be 800 or 1,000 or more pounds. So that maxes out most people in cars for sure. And so running a good delivery service, so I'm basically open to deliver anywhere around Michigan. But sometimes you have to be patient with me. So I encourage people to reach out ahead of time, because I am very busy, and just because you want something doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to come right away. So I got to schedule things out and plan things accordingly. And even the smaller deliveries, I can lump those up. And by the time I got like 4 or 5 smaller deliveries, well, now it's worth it, to drive and make this delivery. So if people can be conscious of their time and reach out, we're happy to try to set it up. People can also schedule to pick up. We do farm pickups here. My place is open for people to come shop here and things. But I encourage people to reach out to me because we are busy. So the pop in stuff is not as great for us here, not like the store.
Right, right.
So trying to keep a good line of communication between me and the people that want to work with us. And that helps anyways, because people often need to talk through their projects and see what they're doing. And then I can talk to them about some different options that I got for them too.
Absolutely. You know, I'm excited for this next grow and trying some other things that you've done and you gave me. Like I've never used bokashi before. We're putting that into this next bed, and I kind of mixed it in with my cover crop because I kind of wanted it to kind of benefit all at the same time. Maybe I timed it wrong, maybe I did it right, but it's going to be a learning experience and it's going to be fun. And with that being said, if anybody wants to get your products, can you once again repeat what your website is or how they can connect with you?
Yeah, my website is Country Roots Ltd for licensed trademark and development, or Country Roots Limited. Called it strategically like that because we don't have all the synthetic products. We only work with the organic stuff. So, but countryrootsltd.com is our website. And my address and phone number and things are available there. And I'm very active on social media pages and things. So if you like to connect with people through social media, feel free to send me a message there, and we could talk about any projects you might have, or help you get through some different questions and things like that. We get all kinds of questions coming in.
Absolutely. And you guys can save a couple bucks if you use coupon code organically blunt. So don't forget to try that. If you hear from us here and you hear about Chris and you're just hearing about his brand, definitely give it a try because I guarantee you won't go back after you try it to whatever you were using prior.
I will
So
say
with that,
too that just one more thing. I will say that we are looking for some more distribution points too. Some different retail outlets, farm markets, grow stores, things like that. That want to carry some of our stuff too. So we are trying to get in a few spots. Horizon Hydroponics and Growers Outlet and Grow Green in Ann Arbor are carrying our stuff right now. And some other shops that were carrying our stuff. Unfortunately, more and more shops keep closing. As the years go on.
yeah.
So just continuously trying to find good places to work and people that want to, help get our products out there. There's even some other home gardeners that like me, that have home operations that are helping me sell my products. So I appreciate anybody that can, do good business and help me keep things moving.
Bingus said he wants you to bring a truckload out to the northwest for distribution. So, these guys definitely want to try it. Hey, and I will
We
admit,
are we are working on. There is a potential that we could make it to the northwest of the United States at some point. I'll say that. I have communications with various people. It's just a matter of logistics and demand for one. So I
right.
I appreciate hearing about demand because that helps me to try to plan things out.
Definitely, definitely. And if you guys, the message, the true message right there, I mean, that is hidden in the details is, if you do have a local grow shop, try to support it because, as he said, a lot of them closed down. The three that I had around me all closed down. The other day, the last episode prior to Chris with Trey Strongs and how he talked about how he used to run a shop, that was my local grow shop. That's how I met Trey Strongs and Rob from CLTV. And you're not going to get that kind of one-on-one education anywhere else, really. And these local guys can kind of show you in person what you need and kind of explain it a little bit better. So if you have one and that you frequent, be sure to support it and mention, hey, maybe you should carry Country Roots soil and amendments and have them reach out to Chris and maybe we can get it distributed in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, please try to support the grow centers. I really think that it's very important to have these garden centers around it for multiple reasons. And it is a shame to see a lot of them have to close. And I know a lot of people are doing online. And frankly, I just think people are spending less money,
Yep,
because I think people still desire to do certain things. They just got to be a lot more careful about it. So trying to help that too.
absolutely.
I know that one of my program, as a just a small pitch, a living soil system is about as cost effective as it gets. It's expensive
Yeah,
to get it set up. You got to buy the equipment, the beds, and the soil. But I've been growing in the same soil for 22 runs now, and so you can get 10 years or more. Like it's all about just simply amending it between runs, and you can keep a massive package soil growing for a long, long time. And so now in my grow beds, it only costs me like not even $100 worth of amendments each cycle to run the whole 12 plant grow, and so it's saving me tremendous money now. And keep growing better and better stuff, as you learn to dial these systems in. And not everybody has to do living soil beds. I got a lot of people that grow with my soil in pots too. So either way that you like to do it, but we have a cost effective program that doesn't break the bank for the growers.
Absolutely. You know, and with that being said, everybody, this is the end of season 3. Chris is my 52nd interview this season. I tied off my 3rd year with someone special that I consider one of my best friends. So I appreciate you coming on the show, Chris, and all the knowledge you continuously drop to me. And you teach me stuff basically on a weekly basis, even though you might not think you do, you do. And I can't be more thankful. You've definitely helped sculpt this show over the years. And, you know, in February, we will be hitting our 4-year anniversary. So be sure to tune in, guys, because I have a whole bunch of episodes lined up for March when we're going to be starting season 4. So with that being said, if you can't stay lit, stay organically blunt. And once again, Chris, thank you for coming on the show and telling your story. And we look forward to a season 4 with y'all. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks for watching Organically Blunt. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe up front. Shout out to our partners helping us grow. Seedsman Genetics, the pros you know. Country Roots soil and grassroots too. Grow bags, keep your turfs just like new. Gorilla Grow 10 kind, LEDs shining bright. Atlas Seeds Green Wolf, keeping your grow just right. Just right. Extreme gardening and smoking storks so fly. Use code Organically Blunt and Give them